dive right on in. I have Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 for us today. As always, I encourage you to follow along. It says, and don't sin by letting anger control you. That's a very familiar passage. Yep, we're talking about anger. When life happens, when the test of life comes through the husband, the kids, the boss, the neighbor, the driver next to you on the freeway, listen, we can't afford to allow anger, which is a very natural and oftentimes a valid emotion due to the circumstance. We can't let sin come out of that and be controlling of us. And so today I want to talk about how to guard those promises that we have from God. We don't want to allow sin to win. Okay, so we're going to look at Moses and the Israelites today. As you know, that Moses, y'all, the Israelites were a handful. Okay, and so we're going to look at Numbers 20 today. We are pretty much at the end of the 40 years in the wilderness, and we get to watch how anger leads to disobedience, and that disobedience and anger, it was very costly for Moses and Aaron. And so let's start in Numbers chapter 20, verse 2. It says, there was no water for the people to drink at that place, so they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. The people blamed Moses and said, if only we had died in the Lord's presence with our brothers. And so already out the gates, there is complaining. There is, why didn't you just leave us back where we were? Like, it's wild out here for Moses and Aaron, okay? In verse 4, it says, why have you brought the congregation of the Lord's people into this wilderness to die along with all of our livestock? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us here to this terrible place? Now, nobody made the Israelites do anything, okay? Y'all, there is blame going around. There is shame going around. There is complaining going around. And this is what Moses and Aaron have to deal with. It says, this land has no grain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates, and no water to drink. And so I know at this point, Moses and Aaron have to be at the end, okay? Done, over it, okay? Verse 6 says, Moses and Aaron turned away from the people and went to the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them. So here in verse 7, the Lord is going to give Moses instructions on how to deal with these rebellious people, okay? And oftentimes when we're going through and being tested in life, man, God has given instructions. He's telling us exactly what we need to do. The test is here, and God is giving us the blueprint, the cheat code through his word. And so we have to make sure that we're listening. In life, when you're dealing with the husband, you're dealing with the kids, you're dealing with the boss, yes, the test is here and it may not feel good. What's happening? Frustration is the result. What's happening is I'm tired. What's happening is I don't want to deal with what's going on. But they did right. They went before the Lord and they're going to get their instructions. And so verse 7 says, and the Lord said to Moses, you and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there. That's key. And it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock. So in verse 9, we see Moses go and do exactly what the Lord has asked. He goes and he gets the staff, he gathers up all the people, and he gets to the rock. Y'all, let's read what he did. It's in verse 10. We'll start. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. Listen, you rebels, he shouted. Must we bring you water from this rock? Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out. So the entire community and their livestock drank their fill. So we see Moses frustrated, mad, just over the complaining, over the back and forth, the whoop-de-doo, and he strikes the rock twice. Now, provision came out of his disobedience. There was water, there was fuel for the community and for the livestock. And I believe oftentimes when we are frustrated and angered and overwhelmed, instead of just following through with what God has asked us to do, He's given specific instructions here in this word. He went and deviated from the plan, almost like trying to prove a point. And so we see provision still come out of disobedience. And I believe that happens for us. And so we still have to make sure that we're following the story. Let's keep reading. It says, "But the Lord," in verse 12, "said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I am giving them." It cost. That anger, that frustration, that deviance from the plan, what God told him to do, it cost them the promised land. What might you be dealing with in life? What test has come to your doorstep and you're at your wit's end? You're frustrated. There's the back and forth. Nobody's listening. Everybody's complaining. Nothing is coming together the way that you thought. And instead of following the instructions, you went and you did it another way. You thought because, well, that worked out, everything was still on track. Everything was going good, but you didn't really get what God had promised. You don't have the abundance, you don't have the peace, you don't have the joy in the situation. You didn't get what God had said. And so you have to sit back and wonder, and you got to go back over the things that you did. Man, I didn't follow through. We have to be willing to protect the promises that we get from God. And we do that by not giving in to the sin that can be produced from anger. Anger, remember, it's natural emotions. It's a valid emotion oftentimes, but we can't allow what happens to get us off track. Yes, we should absolutely feel what happened, acknowledge what happened, but don't feed into it. Don't allow sin to win. Moses should not have given in to the whims of the devil, which is that anger, that frustration, it won. He went his own way. He struck that rock twice instead of speaking to the rock. Guys, when we're dealing with our children, when we're dealing with the boss, when we're dealing with trials in our marriage, we have to follow the instructions. The joy that we desire, the peace that we desire, the elevation that we desire, the anointing that we desire, we have to be willing to follow through. Yes, the frustration, it's there, it's real. The anger, because we've been wronged, it's real. But we have to make sure that we follow through with what God has called us to do. We have a new identity in Christ. We are daughters of the King. And so our reactions, they have to be fitting of the daughters of a king. I know what it feels like when you're going through life and it's just like, I am so angry that I can't even explain to you the things that I feel like doing, things that aren't even legal, depending on what the situation is. I've been there where I'm on my way to do something that I know God has not asked me to do. It's not going to end well. It's not a good representation of who I am as a daughter of a king. I'm an heir of Christ. It's going to lead me down the wrong path. And so thank God for the moment of stop. Acknowledge I've been wrong. Acknowledge that I'm hurt. Acknowledge that this thing, it don't feel right. But I'm not going to feed into it. I'm not going to allow the enemy to win here. I'm going to allow God to be my vengeance, because vengeance is his. It's not mine. We can't steal from God what belongs to him. When we do that, I'll speak for myself, we mess some things up. And so here, even in Numbers 20, we see that the provision was met. The Israelites had the water that they were looking for themselves and for their livestock, but it was costly for Aaron and for Moses. The same is with us when we go and we react, and it's not in a way that would be fitting for the child of a king. Yeah, there may have been provision. There may have been, now what we may call peace. They're leaving me alone, or I told them, I got my part of the story out. But what is the end result? What am I now missing out on because I deviated from the plan? What am I not walking into? What promise have I canceled out because I decided to let my emotions take control? We have to remember that God knows what's best. And so when he gives instructions, follow to the T. Don't deviate. Our emotions will get us in trouble. Listening to what we feel, listening to how I don't feel like doing right now, it will lead to destruction. It will lead not to what God has for me. It'll lead to, oh, well, that's okay. That's all right. At least I got a little bit. No, 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 no. We want the full package. We want the full reward. And so we don't want to get to a place where, yes, in this instance with the Israelites, they've been in this thing together for 40 years. And the same could be for a friendship. The same could be for a job. You've been there 10 years. The boss, as hard as you've worked, you show up, you're on time, you go above and beyond, and they continue to go over you when it comes time for the promotion. The same in this marriage. We've been at this thing for 10 years, and he just ain't listening, Lord. I thought we would be further along. The same in our careers, the same with our children. God, I've been pouring and pouring into this child, and nothing seems to be working. Stay the course. Stay the course, my sister. Listen for the instructions, and whatever he tells you to do, follow it. Feel what's happening. Acknowledge what's happening. That's appropriate. Again, anger is a natural response, often valid. I feel like I have to keep saying that. What they did was wrong. They're not listening. They continue to go their own way. They're doing their own thing. But allow God to speak to you how to make it through this test, how to make it through this trial. Because you want to make sure that as you follow through, as he's given you a word, he's given you a promise. You want to make sure that you make it over to your promised land. Don't give up. We're guarding our promises by controlling those emotions. Don't allow the emotions to carry you over into sin. Don't allow sin done to you to cause sin to come from you, my sister. I pray this word has helped you. I pray that God is with you. I pray that you go to God with whatever is alienating you, whatever is hurting you, whatever is harming you, whatever you feel is stopping you from being who God has called you to be. Release those things. Release those things. Allow God, his light. That's what I want to say. Allow God's light to shine in you, no matter what's happening. When the life that you're living, the tests, they're going to come, but we want to make sure that we are responding. I was going to say relaxing, but we want to make sure that our response is befitting of the daughter of a king. So share this word with whoever you believe may need this word. And remember, we have to guard our emotions so that we can get over to the promised land. I love you, and I mean it.